Well, it was 1 week ago tonight that anti-ICE protests in Los Angeles exploded into violence. The senior correspondent Steve Harrigan is back live on the streets of L.A. tonight. Steve, how does it look tonight?
Trace, quiet tonight as that curfew continues to be extended night after night. 41 people arrested overnight, mostly for failure to disperse. They're getting ready for what could be some huge nationwide protests, and especially here in Los Angeles, where law enforcement is saying they're going to pay special attention and step up patrols around mosques and temples.
It's not lost on us that we are all also monitoring the overseas activities regarding Israel and Iran. That impacts us. That alone, without everything else going on, would have kept us busy.
Those 700 Marines have now joined 4,000 National Guard troops. The Marines were seen briefly detaining and then releasing one civilian. The Marines' stated mission to protect federal buildings and federal agents. Trace, back to you.
Steve Harrigan live for us in downtown L.A. Steve, we'll get back to you if needed. Thank you. Let's bring in the American Border Story Creative Director, Tiffany Marie Brannon, PragerU political commentator Franklin Camargo, and the Federalist elections correspondent Brianna Lyman, along with former LA GOP Vice Chair, Daily Wire actor Siaka Massaquoi. Thank you all for coming on. Siaka, to you first. I want to play some Democratic reaction to the attack on Iran. Watch this.
This is deeply disturbing, truly a dangerous situation.
It's nightmarish that we are in this position. Clearly, our president, Donald Trump, didn't believe that a military strike was the right option.
I mean, it's amazing to me, Siaka, that these people on the left, they're against this. They were against this strike. They just don't realize what a massive turning point this is for Israel.
You know, Trace, I don't really think they're against the strike as much as they use any type of scare tactic to get their people on their side to worry about this administration. Look, that strike was a very strategic strike that Israel put on Iran, and literally, as Trump said, took out the hardliners, those that weren't willing to really get with the program and have a very clear and honest conversation about these negotiations. So now, the way it looks like, what's going to happen now, they have an option. Iran knows how far Israel's willing to go. It actually makes more sense now that Iran makes a deal with the Trump administration so that Israel would back up. That's just how I see it working, and these Democrats are way off as usual.
Yeah. Meantime, Brianna, you had Senator Jack Reed saying the following on CNN. Watch.
This was a very sophisticated and successful attack. But we were in the process under President Trump of negotiating with the Iranians so that they would not get a missile.
Yeah, prior to this, Brianna, the Iranians had no intention of trying to strike a deal to stop their nuclear enrichment.
Look, President Donald Trump, he gave Iran 60 days to try and strike a deal because Donald Trump is operating as though Iran is a Western nation who cares about diplomacy. Unfortunately, Iran is a terrorist nation. So there was only so much that they were willing to go. Of course, I, like many Americans, do not want to see this conflict escalate. But Donald Trump and his administration are privy to much more information than you, Senator Reed are, and probably either approved this or gave Israel their blessing because they know stuff that we don't know. So I trust President Trump and what this administration will do to protect America and our interest.
Meantime, Tiffany, Hakeem Jeffries on MSNBC said the following.
Talked about restoring peace to the Middle East. That has not happened. And so the whole Trump presidency has been a complete failure, characterized by chaos, cruelty, and corruption. And, you know, I'm hopeful that cooler heads will prevail in the Middle East and the situation is de-escalated.
Anything to take a dig at Trump. They don't realize this is a master class in politics, the way this whole thing was done. It is a master class, and if this thing turns out like we think it's going to turn out, Democrats are in big trouble.
Well, and that's the whole thing, right? This is the art of the deal. And as Brianna said, they were not coming to the table. They were hardliners, and as President Trump said to Dana Bash today, you know, and he said, well, the hardliners are dead. And she goes, Mr. President, does that mean that Israel killed them? He says, well, they didn't die of COVID. So I think what we realize now is that they're going to have to come with a whole new shiny team to the table. they are going to come willing to negotiate, and they're going to come to play ball, which, you know, Hakeem Jeffries, the poor guy, he has no other hobbies except trying to come up with insults because they lost.
Whether it's the riots, doesn't matter what it is, they just pivot and it's just hate Trump. This could be really the end, Franklin, of Iran as we know it for 50 years. I mean, the people could rise up. This could be, we are watching history unfold before our eyes.
And that is what we need. That is what the West needs. Right now, what Israel is doing is basically fighting the West war, and so we don't have to. So, you know, people are saying that we need diplomacy, we need to negotiate with Iran. Well, Democrats tried to do that. They gave money to Iran, they lifted sanctions on Iran, and how did that work out? They are funding Hamas. October the 7th happened just less than 2 years ago.
Right.
They also funded Hezbollah. They fund terrorist groups that hate the U.S., hate Israel. And no, Israel is not to blame for what it's going right now. Actually, we should be grateful that we have Israel right now strong in the Middle East, so we don't have to fight them because they hate our values, they hate our principles, and actually they want to come after us.
Siaka Massaquoi, remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger used to be a Republican? Remember he ran for governor as a Republican in California? Here he is on Jimmy Kimmel talking about the unrest in Los Angeles.
They make it out to like it is a war zone, the whole Los Angeles, the whole city or the county. And the fact of the matter is it's maybe like 0.001% of the area of Los Angeles has problems, and there's a protest. For decades, almost 4 decades, we have had a problem where they talked about immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform. But the Democrats and the Republicans, both of the parties, have no interest in solving this problem because they use that to raise money.
For the record, total BS on both. But just the whole thing that makes it is he's now saying it's a real estate thing, you know. If you only blow up one building, it's totally fine. They're saying the whole thing in L.A. No, they're not. They're saying it was in downtown. They were saying going after cops. It was a mess in downtown where it happened. And you don't have to blow up the whole city for something to be an incident. You can't just say, oh, by the way, it was just the Palisades. We only lost 5,000. Oh, a million other homes are fine. That's what they're saying, Siaka.
Well, exactly, Trace. And here's the other side. When would it be okay to get these guys in? Huh? After they moved over to Silver Lake, Echo Park, West Hollywood, Hollywood. Was that going to be when it was going to be okay? Because we all remember the Summer of Love. It got all the way up to North Hollywood where I was living when I was back in L.A. And the fact that they're even saying this, it just gives you an example of how privileged Arnold has been by living behind his gated community up in the hills, that the average person, we don't want this to spread out like it did before with these feckless mayors that were literally telling their police officers to stand down. And the fact that he's like, because no one wants comprehensive border reform, guess what? It's about who's in charge. Trump got in charge and it dropped to 96% of no one crossing the border. So you tell me, do we need more laws or we just need a strong president in there to enforce the laws? I don't know, Arnold. Come on, buddy.
He makes a great point, Brianna. It's not about real estate. It's about the incident itself.
Trace, this would be the equivalent of me handing you a batch of cookies and saying one is poison, but the rest are fine, right? It's so idiotic. But the bigger thing here is the reason they're trying to downplay the extent of these violent riots is because if they acknowledge these violent riots are happening, they have to acknowledge what sparked these riots, and that is mass migration and radical open border policies that the left has championed. So they don't want Americans connecting the dots here and seeing that mass migration, mass illegal migration, and open border policies leads to societal chaos because they're going to continue to turn their backs on the Democrats that have championed that.
Tiffany.
Yeah, I think that what we really see is just, as Brianna said again, the illegal immigration problem is really at the heart of so much of this. And you see just the constant Democratic lying and the lack of candor and the lack of truth. What this really is a war of lies.
Right, and when they had, listen, you talk about Alex Padilla, the senator he was going after. He was he was rustling through the thing, and he literally was going up to Kristi Noem. They're like, oh, they took him down. That's shameful. Security, it's basic standard security.
This woman not only is she a cabinet secretary, but she's a woman with massive death threats against her. He's a senator. You know what he really wanted? He wanted to be a big baby and throw a temper tantrum so that he could be on TV.
Totally. Frankly. Any immigrant, I'm an immigrant myself, any immigrant who waves a foreign flag while burning the American flag should be sent back immediately immediately to whatever horrible place they came from. Immediately. It's very offensive and self-destructive to receive these people and provide free stuff for them.
You left there for a reason. Now you're celebrating the place you left.
I escaped those people too. I escaped that type of people, not just the government, but that type of people.
Franklin, Tiffany, Brianna, Siaka, thank you all.